Hey everyone, welcome to the live broadcast. Happy you are here. I'm Michael Reynolds, owner of Elevation Financial, independent financial advisor, and this is Wealth Redefined. As you know, probably, we're going to hit record here on the podcast portion of the show and get started. See you soon. Hey everyone, welcome to Wealth Redefined. I'm your host, Michael Reynolds, independent financial advisor and owner of Elevation Financial. We are located on the web at elevationfinancial.com. Thanks for joining me today. Glad you are with us on the show. All right, today we're talking credit report, specifically how to review your credit report, why you should do it. We're kind of coming up at the end of the year. It's fourth quarter. Actually, it's well into fourth quarter. It's almost November. So we're wrapping up the year. Kind of crazy to think about. And this is the time of year I like to go through some checklist items with my clients. And one of those things is reviewing your credit report. There's a number of things I like to do. This is not the only thing, but this is one of the things I do like to put on the end of your checklist kind of stuff. Because it's something you want to pay attention to. It's something that I think a lot of people just kind of never look at or never even pull and review. And reviewing your credit report is a good idea because honestly, mistakes can be made. It's not always accurate for everybody. And so we want to make sure that your credit report is accurate. So again, I really recommend reviewing your credit report at least once a year. You can do that online at annualcreditreport.com. It is free to do that once a year. And that is the really the only legit source to do that. You can do other ways as well. I shouldn't say the only legit, but that's really the main way to do it. So let's back up a little bit. What is your credit report? So your credit report is basically just a snapshot of your credit history, your borrowing history, loans outstanding, balances, payment history, personal information, stuff like that. So your credit report is made up of four main sections. First, I've got my sample here to kind of reference. So the first section is personal info. This is just stuff about your personal life, addresses, historical contact information, stuff like that. Second is credit accounts. These are accounts you have that are open or previous accounts, things like loans, credit cards, credit limits, balances, payment histories, all this kind of stuff. Any late payments, repossessions, charge-offs, collection activity, stuff like that. Those are your accounts. The third section is public record information. This is going to include stuff like any tax liens, any bankruptcies, any judgments filed against you, stuff like that. And the fourth section is inquiries. Information about any businesses that have requested your credit report in the last 30 days. So any kind of inquiries from potential creditors that are doing inquiries into your credit history. So those are the four sections in your credit report. So first of all, again, we talked about this just a minute ago. How do you obtain your credit report? How do you get a copy of it? The best way is to go to annualcreditreport.com. You can do that once a year for free, and that will pull your credit report from the three major credit bureaus, which are Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. That is the main site for getting your report. You'll put in some basic information. You'll authenticate who you are, and you'll run through a few prompts, and then you'll have the option to download a credit report from each of the three credit bureaus. You can download that as a PDF file. You can store it in your records, and you can review it as needed. So that's really the best way to get your credit report. So a few things about credit bureaus. They generally don't share information with each other, but they should be referencing the same sources. The same sources are kind of common to all these bureaus, but they don't share information with each other. They are independent entities. So you may see things a little bit different from bureau to bureau, but in general, the information should be fairly consistent. So that's how you get your credit report. Now, how do you read it? How do you review it? It may look kind of confusing at first, but if you kind of scan it methodically from top down, you'll really understand. The sections are fairly straightforward when you look at those sections. So first of all, you're going to see, a summary of who you are, a summary of your contact information, open accounts. Then you're going to see all the different accounts you have open or have opened previously listed there. The accounts will be listed on that report. You're going to see things like the account age, how long the account has been open, the length of the credit history of that account, the average account age overall. So the average length of time your accounts have been open is also going to be summarized there. You're also going to see, again, number of inquiries from people or from businesses that have inquired about your credit report or credit history. You're going to see those inquiries there as well. You're going to see things like negative counts, collections activity, things like that. So you're going to kind of go through and you're going to see all those different accounts in the account information and the history that goes with each account. So what you want to look for is inaccurate information. You want to look for anything that looks like it's an account that maybe you've never held, or an account that is currently not, an account that is current or previous. There have been occasions where accounts can be misattributed to people, individuals with similar names, for example, or just regular clerical errors. So you want to look for accounts that maybe that don't exist in your world, that aren't your accounts. You want to look for inaccurate payment information, maybe inaccurate balances, inaccurate historical information about the accounts. You want to look for any kind of inaccurate information because these things can cause problems, obviously, in the future if you are if you're getting a mortgage or businesses are referencing your credit. So you want to make sure you look for those inaccuracies. If you do find inaccuracies, you want to open a dispute with that credit bureau. So each agency has their own dispute process. You go to their website, you file a dispute. You can call them as well, but usually you want to be sure to have it in writing. So you want to file a dispute. You can do that online or sending correspondence. You want to open that dispute with the credit agency and detail what is inaccurate about your credit report. And by law, they have 30 days to investigate and report back to you. So you will have, in theory, a response within 30 days. That is the time limit they have. And you want to also send a copy of that dispute to the creditor as well on file, not just the agency, but the creditor that's listed there, and keep a copy for yourself as well. Make sure you log all correspondence in your own records as well. So that's kind of the process of disputing. Mistakes do happen. It's not like they're always totally accurate. Mistakes do happen. I've heard a lot of people having mistakes they've uncovered in their credit report, and disputing those will get those ideally resolved. Now, one thing you want to be sure you differentiate is the difference between incorrect and negative information. So negative information in your credit report cannot be it can be disputed, but it won't be corrected because there's nothing to correct. It's accurate information, but it's negative. So for example, if you have an account that is listed as past due, it's a negative score, or it's like a red mark on your credit report. It says, hey, negative activity, but it's accurate. There's nothing you can do about that. It's accurate information. If you find something that is truly incorrect, though, then that is something you can dispute. Incorrect information is that's kind of what the dispute process is for. So you want to be able to identify what is incorrect and dispute that if you find something that is truly inaccurate information. Again, accurate information that's negative, you can't really dispute, but inaccurate information is what you can dispute. So that is generally what I like to do every year. Again, I like to go to annualcreditreport.com once a year, pull my credit report from all three bureaus, and review them in detail to make sure that everything looks correct. Make sure that all the accounts attributed to me are correct, and they're accounts that I either hold or have held. Make sure the activity is correct. Make sure that the balances look correct. Everything is accurate. Now, bigger picture here. If you know me at all, you know how anti-debt I am. I hate debt. I don't even own a credit card. I haven't for years. I love living life without a credit card. I love living life without relying on debt. That's me personally. So it's both a perspective and a privilege. I realize that. But there are many others like me as well that have kind of arranged their life to live without relying on debt, or at least not owning a credit card, and various levels of anti-debt focus. So you might wonder, why do I care about my credit report? Well, because I have a history. I mean, there is a history of I have had debt in the past. And so having debt in the past will show up on your credit report. You want to make sure those things are still accurate. There's nothing there that shouldn't be there, for example. And in general, it's a good way also to pay attention to what's happening with your identity and your credit history. So a lot of times, we talked about in the last episode about ID theft protection and kind of what goes into that. This kind of goes hand in hand with that. Often if people are trying to steal your identity, they can open accounts in your name. They're attempting to do credit inquiries. And if you have someone who's trying to steal your identity or open accounts in your name, those can show up on your report, and you may not know about it until you pay attention and take a look at that, especially if you don't subscribe to ID theft protection. So reviewing your credit history is just a really good idea. It's just good to know what's there in the event that there is inaccurate information. So it's pretty simple. Again, that's kind of the gist of it. I like to do this once a year. I usually do it around the October, November, maybe December-ish timeframe. It's just a good checklist item at the end of the year, just to kind of pay attention, just to be aware. Also, just because activity kind of spikes a little bit over the holiday season, end of year stuff, ID theft becomes more of a problem. Also, it's just a good time of year to kind of do some housekeeping in this area. So again, review your credit report once a year, annualcreditreport.com. Keep it on file. Make sure you keep a copy of that. And if you have any inaccuracies, dispute those, file the correspondence, and follow up to make sure those get resolved. So if you have any questions about that, I appreciate those who have joined me today to kind of learn a little bit more about this. If you have any questions about this, I'd love to hear from you. Send me a note at podcast@elevationfinancial.com, or better yet, just reach out on my website if you like. If you go to elevationfinancial.com, you will find a big, easy button on the homepage that says book a complimentary money session. That's a great way for either prospective clients or just anyone who wants to ask a few questions. No obligation, no fee. I'd be happy to answer questions for you. So actually got a question coming in here from Stephanie. I'll leave the music a little bit low before I wrap up here so I can hear. Stephanie says, having no debt or credit history hurt my husband when we were applying for a mortgage in the past. We had to rely only on my income, even though he is the primary breadwinner. He is the farmer and always just buy things in cash. He didn't have enough established credit to be considered on our new loan. That's great. So by the way, this is coming in through Facebook Live. I appreciate that question, Stephanie. So yeah, it's more of a statement really than a question. But yes, this does come up a lot. And so I'm actually going to fade the music down because I'm not ready for it. I'm going to go ahead and dig into this question a bit. So let me fade that back down. And we'll just start the music again once I'm ready. So Stephanie, your comment is great. Yeah, this comes up a lot, especially for people like me who are sort of anti-debt, anti-credit, a little bit of a unicorn, a little bit weird. I know most people, have debt and rely on credit cards, and that's fine. But I'm a little weird like that. But this case is a reality. If you don't have a credit history and you're applying for a mortgage, that can be a problem. So there's a couple of ways around this. One is just like you did. If you have a partner, one partner maybe is not as anti-debt and they have a credit history that's more established, they'll be the ones to get the loan. Not ideal, but that's kind of one scenario. And of course, not available to everybody. The other scenario is if you're getting a mortgage. Dave Ramsey talks about this a lot. There's something called manual underwriting. There are quite a few mortgage lenders, in the U.S. that do manual underwriting. I know Dave Ramsey endorses one out of Tennessee. There are plenty of others, and they do what's called manual underwriting, which means they don't rely on the typical credit score and credit history. They do a lot more manual data gathering. They look at things like the longevity of your paycheck and your job, and they look at assets in the bank and payment history and various other contexts beyond just credit. And so, if you are finding yourself in a situation where maybe you and or your partner has limitations when applying for a traditional mortgage because of lack of credit history or maybe lack of recent usage of debt, which I applaud, by the way. I really like that. I think it's the way to go. You can rely on manual underwriting to get that mortgage done. That does happen quite a bit. It's pretty normal. Most people just don't know about it because we're just kind of trained in this country to just have a credit score and rely on our credit score for everything. So again, not a one size fits all, but manual underwriting is a likely scenario in that case, which would help. So thanks, Stephanie. Appreciate that question. I forgot to pop it on screen, but I'll go ahead and pop it on there now. So thanks for asking that or making that statement and bringing up that concern. All right. With that, again, I'll go ahead and officially wrap up now again here. So we'll start the music again. Thanks, everyone, for joining me today. Again, my website, elevationfinancial.com. Feel free to reach out if you'd like to chat, and have a great day. We will see you next time. All right. Hey, thanks, Stephanie. Appreciate it. We got the recording off now here and kind of in the green room. So if you have any other comments or questions, pop them in now. But yeah, that comes up a lot, Stephanie. I know that the credit score versus getting a mortgage concern is extremely common. It's kind of the number one question that comes up whenever I talk to people about kind of the no debt lifestyle or the no credit lifestyle. And there's various points on the spectrum as well. So at one point on the spectrum, there's, people like me who are extreme. Like, I don't own a credit card. I don't, have debts of any kind. I don't like to borrow money. Like, I'm really extreme like that, kind of Dave Ramsey style. Other people are more like, hey, you know what? I don't have a credit card. I don't really use a card. I've got a car loan. Maybe I've got one card I don't really use that much. And they're a little more kind of lax about it. And they do have a more established credit history. So there's various points you could be along that spectrum. You could be really hardcore like I am and really extreme, or you could be a little less extreme and kind of have a hybrid approach. I just love not relying on credit cards. It's just so clean. It's just so simple. Being able to pay for things with real money and not going into debt for things, being able to kind of wait for things. And again, I realize this is a privileged situation. There's lots of different factors in life that contribute to where people are in life. And it's not a one size fits all in my situation, and privilege and history is not a one size fits all either. But I think it's a worthy goal to try to avoid debt of any kind throughout your life, if possible. So that's a long-winded kind of comment on your comment, Stephanie, but I appreciate it. So with that, if you have any other questions, pop them in the comments now. I'll give you like 5 more seconds or so. Looks like I got a heart there from Stephanie. So thanks for the thumbs up on our discussion. But again, thanks for joining me. As always, we go live every Tuesday afternoon, 1:30 Eastern, here on Facebook and on YouTube. So we appreciate you joining. So thanks, everyone. Have a great day. We will see you next time.